Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. If you don't know me, I'm Santoshi Reddy. I help international students on various career aspects such as upskilling, reskilling, and also share my experiences from my time as an international student. I also visit high schools in Australia talking about career prospects for younger generation. In this video, I'm going to talk about the roles and responsibilities of various accountants in Australia. And this video is made upon a request from one of our subscribers, Sahil Arora. Sahil, this is for you and for those who are looking for the same information as Sahil. Without any further ado, let's get back into the topic. Luckily, I worked in all the roles of accounting in Australia except external auditing. Oh, before going further, I would like to talk about the occupations that are on demand list for the past 15 years in Australia relating to accounting. Those are financial accounting, this is also called as accountant general, management accountant, taxation accountant, internal auditing and external auditing. So these are the 5 occupations a bachelor or masters of accounting graduate can work in. So I worked in all of these accounting roles and I would like to share my experiences as the financial accountant, management accountant, taxation accountant, external and internal auditing. External auditing, I don't have experience in it, but I worked with number of external auditors during working in these roles. So I'm going to talk about that as well, what they do. First one, financial accountant. As soon as I finished my CPA from CPA Australia, I got a role as a financial accountant in one of the MNCs. So the head office was in US and they got a subsidiary in Australia. So that was my first role as a financial accountant. Before that, I worked as an accounts payable officer and accounts receivable or accounts clerk and assistant accountant. And you may be wondering, what is CPA Australia? CPA Australia is a professional qualification. For example, in India, we have CA. So in Australia, we have 2 professional accounting bodies. So one is CPA Australia and the other one is CA Australia. So CPA and CA Australia are the 2 professional accounting bodies. If you undertake a course, which is Certified Practicing Accountant from CPA Australia or Chartered Accountant from CA Australia, these 2 occupations, these 2 professions are highly regarded. These 2 qualifications, I should say, are highly regarded in Australia. So if you look at any job description in Australia for accounting field, you see whether you should be a CA or CPA, or you are partially completing CPA or CA, or eligible criteria, they say you must be a CPA or CA. So these are the keywords that they use when they are looking for a employee with certain qualifications in accounting. So let's get back into our topic now. What financial accountant does? Financial accountant is an accountant who deals with number of tasks, so relating to accounting or function of the organization. So there are daily tasks, weekly tasks and also monthly tasks that an accountant does. So daily task, it could be relating to dealing with various stakeholders within the organization, guiding them or advising them or providing them information what they need about their departments. For example, they got an invoice for them to pay, but they don't know how the invoice should be with all the details. So whom it should be, where it should be coded to, and how it should look like. Then the financial accountant may advise those stakeholders. It also depends on which company you're working for. So the company I was working for, this was the day-to-day task that I used to do. And also that was a toy company. So we used to get lots of toys from China and Asian countries. So we used to pay them on weekly basis. So financial accountant used to undertake that function, paying them and approving them in the bank account. So somebody uploads the transaction list. For example, the company has to pay $1 million every week. So assistant accountant who used to work with me, he used to upload that information onto the system, and as a financial accountant I used to approve them in the accounts books and also in the bank account. So it gets uploaded to the bank as well to disperse the funds to the relevant vendors. So this was one of the tasks, and also making sure the fixed assets, whatever the fixed assets that been processed within the month, are processed in the fixed asset register. So if you are an accounting background, so you know there are subsidiary ledgers and also the general ledger. So subsidiary ledgers, we record everything in subsidiary ledgers for accounts payable or accounts receivable or the fixed asset register. So that was my role at that time, that making sure all the fixed assets identified invoices are processed in the fixed asset register as well. And at the end of the month, processing all accrual and adjustment journals, whatever comes from the stakeholders within the organization. So for example, they say, okay, this department has got an expense which is not related to their department, so it should be related to some other department. So these are some of the adjustments that you do. And also prepayment journals. Prepayment journals are those ones that you pay in advance to a vendor. For example, any subscriptions for something that company uses on regular basis. So for example, nowadays we got this Zoom or MS Teams or Web Teams. So these are the video conferencing tools that we have been using since COVID attacked us. So we may be paying subscription for the whole year, for example $5,000, but $5,000 is not relating to particular month. So we are paying in the month of April, but for the rest of the year. So we do a month, we allocate that cost on monthly basis. So we do a prepayment journal. This is a very small example that I have given, but prepayment journals are usually like sometimes like 200k that we pay well in advance, or 100k we pay well in advance as per the contract terms. So these are the things that you make sure that you process them with the right amount in that particular month. So these are some of the journals that you process at the end of the month or approve them depending on the role. Some financial accountants still process those journals, and some financial accountants, they approve those transactions when somebody uploaded those into the system. So these are some of the functions that I did as a financial accountant. So I worked as an assistant accountant in the same organization and then moved up to the financial accountant. So as a financial accountant, I used to approve all those journals and make sure that they are done accurately and truly and effectively. So these are the things that you look as a financial accountant. And after the month end is closed, so month end, if you are an accounting graduate, you know what is month end. Month end is something that whatever the transactions processed in that month, once it is completed, we close the month in the accounting books. Where if it gets closed in the system, in the accounting system, then we cannot enter anything once that is closed. So once that is closed, so that is also done by a financial accountant. And once that is done, you end up having lots of reporting to the senior management. So budget variance analysis, and you also report on various tasks, preparing P&L accounts and trial balance, and also making sure the balance sheet is all good. So you report to the senior management on various aspects depending on what senior management is expecting from you as a financial accountant. And after that reporting is done, you have reconciliations to undertake. So you do undertake some balance sheet reconciliations, such as bank reconciliations, fixed asset reconciliations, AP reconciliations, or aging reports on accounts payable or accounts receivable. So these are some of the functions, some of the roles and responsibilities of financial accountant. And mind you, the financial accountant, different companies have different roles. So it's been set as per the size of the organization. If it is a large organization, If you are a financial accountant, you may be looking on the broader level of the things. If it is a small organization or medium sized organization, you may be looking at some of the things at the lower level as well. So these are the main functions the financial accountant does. So they deal with the day-to-day functions, accounting functions of the organization. And the next one, management accountant. Management accountant is more like a budget accountant. So they set up budgets for the organization. So setting up the budgets requires a lot of liaising with the stakeholders within the organization. So for example, you have to deal with different departments, you have to liaise with the different departments and ask them what their future operations are for the next financial year. So in Australia, the financial year is from July 1st to June 30th. So this is where the management accountant prepares well ahead before the financial year starts. So he or she liaises with the number of stakeholders within the organization and understand their operations, and if they have any projects that are approved for the next year, and the budget is allocated for those projects. So this is pretty much the management accountant role. And once the budget is set, once the budget is roll over, because sometimes what happens is that may not be much changes within the department, there might be more of a fixed cost, so they may not have much operations. So there is a budget that gets rolled over from the last year, and whatever the new operations or new projects coming in for that department are added to that budget. So that's how the budget is prepared. And once the budget is prepared, the management accountant also does bit of changes to the budget depending on different stakeholders request, what is happening, addition, or what is do a budget variance analysis to the actual budget variance analysis to see where organization is going forward. And he or she does a forecasting as well. For example, at the end of the financial at the end of the month, that management accountant has realized that the organization is going over the budget, and then he finds out the reasons why there was over the budget, why the actuals are more, why the expenditure is more than budgeted. So he does a quick analysis to understand where the problem is and address that to the senior management, advise senior management on where it went wrong, and if it goes in the same manner, and what would be the financial status at the end of the financial year. So these are the things that most of the time management accountant does. So my management accounting role was in one of the hospitals that I worked, but ours was more on dealing on the big basis, like the budget was at that time $900 million. So I was dealing with $900 million budget, and it was, for us, it was granted by, because it was a government organization, it was granted by state and Commonwealth government. So we used to get budget, and then we used to allocate whatever the budget is given, allocate to the different departments, liaising with different departments, what their requirements were, what their approvals were, and factoring those approvals into the budget. So this was my main role, and making sure that budget gets uploaded into the financial systems, financial accounting systems, to make sure that is updated properly, so that it is available, it is gone across all the departments very well and without any mistakes. So this was my major role in one of the organizations I worked with. So now this is the role of management accountant. Now let's get into the taxation accountant. What taxation accountant does? Taxation accountant, there are two types of taxation accountant. So the first one is public practice taxation accountant. So public practice taxation accountant, I was fortunate to work as a public practice tax consultant as well on a part-time basis with one of the firm, so with accounting firm. So that was very interesting experience as well, like, because I worked all my life in corporate, but this time I decided, okay, how the public practice taxation works, and I want to explore that and talking to people in front of me. And every time it's different people come into your office, and then they talk about their tax and the income and expenses. So you make sure, as a tax consultant, you make sure what are the allowable deductions for them and how much tax that they can get back. So these are the things that you do as a tax consultant, as a in public practice. So these were my major roles were. So usually the public practice tax accountant, he or she does the individual tax returns of public, like the individual tax returns, like you and me. If you have an income, then every year you have to file your tax returns. So that's the individual tax returns. And also you undertake BAS, which business activity statements for small businesses, that is on quarterly basis. So what is their income, what is their expenditure, how much GST they are paying, and how much GST they are receiving. So these type of things that you have to, as a small business, you have to file your tax returns on BAS returns on quarterly basis. So these are the things that you do in a public practice. So public practice is nothing but you do deal with different clients. So you have number of clients, and you would be doing pretty much the same sort of role, like dealing with, it also makes a difference in public practice. For example, if you're a young graduate and just started working, the so tax returns for you may be different. And if you are a mature age worker, so you may have a different sort of tax returns. What I mean by that is, you may have lots of tax offsets or senior citizens offsets, and also you may have different allowable deductions, like for medical deductions and that sort of things. So for every sort of thing that you have to go with the rules associated to that client, tax rules associated to that client, and you have to lodge your tax returns. And for this, again, the systems are used. You're not doing manually anywhere. So in public practice. And whereas in corporate tax, so corporate tax accountant deals with number of other taxes, such as corporate tax, paying corporate tax, and also FBT tax, fringe benefits tax, payroll tax. So there are number of taxes that you deal with on a corporate level. So you lodge BAS returns for your company. You also lodge corporate tax, paid corporate tax for your organization. So these are the things that you look up or you undertake task relating to the tax of the organization. And again, you have reporting. You have to deal with different tax regulations. If you're working for an multinational company, you have to deal with different tax rules where your company is located. Because, for example, I used to work for a tourism company where the tourism company you were located across the world. So it was having branches in Korea, it was having branches in Hong Kong, US, UK. So the tax rules for them was a bit different to what we have in Australia. So you have to, as a taxation accountant, as a corporate taxation accountant, you have to make your books, and you have to make sure that all the tax rules are taken into consideration while paying tax in Australia. So this is pretty much the corporate tax accountant does. And next one, internal auditing. Internal auditing is a very exciting one. I found it above all because I'm a person who loves variety in my work. So I worked as a financial accountant, management accountant, and also I did systems accounting, and also I worked as a public practice tax consultant. So out of all this, I found internal auditing is my best choice because it has got different projects and you deal with different people on regular basis. So I found it very fun. It may be different to you. So internal auditing is pretty much providing assurance to the senior management that the processes are working effectively and efficiently. So what happens is, every year the audit department drafts an audit plan, and it gets approved by the audit risk committee, and which is a subcommittee to the board. So based on that, what is approved by the ARC, audit and risk committee, then the auditors take their audits on that basis. So in the audit plan, you have, like for example, 20 projects that you have to do in a year for that particular organization. So as an audit department, you have 4-5 staff within your team, and then you take up the jobs that you have skill set in. So for example, I came from a financial background, so I pick up the projects relating to finance. So I just go and work with the relevant stakeholders, identifying their processes and what opportunities for improvements, and what are the risks they have, and what are the controls they have in relation to that process. So we look at from the controls and risk perspective. So internal auditing is pretty much on that basis. You may have seen, like if you have done your Bachelor of Commerce or Master of Commerce, then there is a subject on auditing. So in that one, it talks about work papers, reporting, and doing your audit reports. So exactly that's what we do in the practical world as well. So whatever client we go to, and we make sure that everything is recorded as an evidence, and try to seek evidence for what they are doing, and what are the control breakdowns. If you identify any control breakdowns, you issue recommendations to the organizations that there is a breakdown here, try to fix it with this solution. So you offer a solution as well, you provide your recommendations and make the management agree to the recommendations and work towards that solution. So this is the key role of the internal auditors. And also they do reporting to the ARC, which is Audit Risk Committee, on quarterly basis, and also administratively report to the chief executive. But I'm an auditor, so that's not undertaken by me. But apart from that, I also undertake some ad hoc requests that I come across. For example, somebody is not sure what they have to do. They have received a gift of $1,000 worth. So what they have to do they accept it, or do they declare it? I work for a public sector, so there are relevant policies or certain policies about gifts accepting. So I have to make sure that I provide them expert advice and guidance on what they have to do. So that sort of ad hoc things that I also work on. So this is pretty much the internal auditing. So internal auditing you do depending on your skill set. So for me, I do most of my audits are relating to the financial, because I came from a financial background, and also budgeting, management, accounting side of things, and also some relating to checking the controls where you don't really need a particular skill set. For example, I work for a hospital, so I don't need a clinical skills for doing a particular audit, so I can just go and do it. But if it requires a clinical skill, looking at something about a patient record, which I may not have a skill set to look at the patient records and analyze and then see whether the doctors have written whatever they have written in their patient notes is correct, I don't have a skill set. So people who has got that skill set, they can go and do that audit. So that's how the internal auditing works. And internal auditing, one more thing, I have done a video on that one. Internal auditing can be done by anyone, not only accountants. If you are an accounting background, you can do it. If you are from a clinical background, you can work as an internal auditor. If you are from an engineering background, yes, you can still go as an internal auditor. And if you are from an audit background, you still go as an internal auditor. So it's not specific to accountants. And next one, external auditing. I dealt with external auditing in all the roles that I worked. So external auditing is pretty much that they make sure the financial statements are prepared with true and fair knowledge, and they are prepared accurately and efficiently to the true and fair knowledge of the person preparing it. So this is what they look at. They make sure the financial statements are prepared as per the standards. So every country has got their own standards, accounting standards. So Australia has got its AASB, accounting standards, Australian Accounting Standards Board. So whatever the financial statements prepared are in accordance with the standards. So that's what the external auditors undertake. So external auditors are pretty much the independent auditors, whereas internal auditors, they are located within the organization. They could be locating within the organization, or they could be outsourced as well, because in my case, my team is located within the organization. We are the permanent employees of the organization, whereas external auditing is more independent, outside the organization. So most of the companies, what they do is they recruit the consulting firms such as Dell or Ernst & Young or Accenture, or any other consulting firms that they undertake external auditing. So these are some of the roles and responsibilities of the various types of accountants in Australia. And if you want to know more about this, could be changing, because when I worked, that was the role and responsibilities of the organization, but now the things are changing. Now even the accountant's role is being changing. Now they're not called anymore like management accountant or financial accountant. In some organizations, they're called as finance business partners. They undertake financial and management duties. And in some areas, they call it corporate analyst, financial analyst, and corporate tax analyst. So these are some of the titles that is being given these days, because most of the things are automated these days. So that's why they are clubbing two roles into one and giving more value to the organization in terms of more providing advice to the people, accounting advice to the people, because not all of them in the organization have accounting knowledge. So it's your responsibility as an accountant to make them understand what that figure is, or how that figure impacts them. So that's the main role of accountants these days, rather than number crunching in the system. So if you want to know more about it, you can go into seek.com.au or indeed.com.au and then look up for type accountant or analyst or finance business partner, and look up their job descriptions. So you will understand what companies are expecting from you, because as I said to you, it depends on which company you are applying for. If it is a small organization, you will undertake the whole function of the accounting by yourself. There may be 2 or 3 people within the organization dealing with the whole accounting function of the organization. And if you go to a medium-sized company, you may have a team of 5 or 6 people doing different jobs. So there might be a financial accountant or management accountant and the taxation accountant. So you may have a different people specialized in different skill set. If you go to a large organization, again, you may have 2 financial accountants, or you may have 2 management accountants, or 3 management accountants. So again, the specialization gets split depending on the type of organization you're working for. For example, where I worked in a hospital, that was a very large organization. So we used to have 4 or 5 management accountants, and we had 4 or 5 financial accountants, so dealing with different departments because of the volume of the transactions. And I worked for a tourism company, and that company had 5 financial and accountants, just 5 financial accountants for each country, 1 financial accountant. So the office was located across the world, so for each country they had 1 financial accountant. So it all depends on what company you are applying for. So go through Seek and then or indeed.com.au and then try to understand the roles and responsibility the companies are expecting from you. And also systems. You may be wondering what accounting systems are good in Australia. There are a number of accounting systems used in Australia depending on the scale of the organization, the size of the organization. As I said earlier, if it is a small organization, they use MYOB or Xero or any other small accounting softwares. And when it comes to the medium one, they use TM1. So that is one of the popular one that they use. Or there are other accounting softwares that are medium-sized organizations, or inbuilt ones that is being used by medium-sized organizations. And the large organizations, especially multinational companies where they are located across different countries, they use Oracle, and also they use SAP. So these are the two major softwares used by the multinational companies, and they use other systems as well, like Sun Systems. I worked on Sun Systems, which is for an MNC, and I worked on Oracle systems all through my life. 16 years, 17 years of my experience is more relied on Oracle. So these are some of the systems that they use. So depending on the size of the organization, so any system you take, from my experience, the basics remains the same: debit, credit, subsidiary ledgers and general ledgers, P&L account, trial balance, and balance sheet. These are the same things that remain, but only the thing is that the reports, the format of the reports may be slightly different. It's pretty much the same. The basics remains the same. So once you know the basics, then you can work on any software. It's, if you know one software, you can work on any other software. So this is the roles and responsibilities of financial management, taxation, external auditing and internal auditing roles. So if you have any questions or anything, I hope I covered everything relating to this. The question, as per the question from Sahil, I've just addressed the roles and responsibilities, the major roles and responsibilities of accountants in Australia. So if you have any particular question, or if you are looking for some information in accounting field, I'm happy to help you as much as I can. And keep looking at my blog, because I post internships on weekly basis, and that may help international students and also people who are looking to get some idea of how the Australian companies look in internships and cadetship programs for students. If you have anything which you want me to address through this, I'm happy to help you, and try to get all the information as I can. And I have shared some of the links for you to explore on this topic as well. So please feel free to contact me if you have any questions. And also don't be upset with me if I'm doing a bit late on posting my videos, because I work full time and I've got 2 little kids and I have a lot of things going around with me. So I'll try my best to get the videos out as quickly as I can, but if not, please be patient with me, and I will come back with another topic in the next video. Until then, bye. Thank you.